So welcome everybody to this, like the fourth session of these workshops on fundraising and management. And we hope that you have found it very productive. As always, you have the PDF, and the PDF has the links, but just in case you don't have the PDF or someone else rewatching the series doesn't have the PDF, these are the links that you can, find us in. Now, today's workshop, we're going to talk about social media for charities, and we're going to do a step-by-step process of creating a humanitarian post online, as well as creating your first Facebook ad in 5 minutes, and then the key principles of social media and marketing. Hi, John. Welcome to the workshop. Sorry, sorry to have taken a while to let you in. Right, so today's workshop is about social media marketing. And I wanted to make a start by asking you, to do a little bit of an audit, because, whatever we do now that is good, we should keep doing. Whatever we are not doing well, then we more or less know what we should improve. So I wanted to first ask you all to see if you could write on the chat, what platforms are you using currently? Hey, Mary, how are you? So my question to you is, what platforms are you using currently for social media? So I'm going to say our organization is using Facebook and Instagram. We also have a Telegram bot for requests of aid, so people can go there and request aid. We have as well, we use Reddit as well with like some level of success. We have as well, well, obviously Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn as well. We have used LinkedIn as well for fundraising. Twitter as well, although not very successfully. So there are very many networks that you can use. If I were to ask you guys, what are you currently doing well in these platforms? Are there any specific examples that you think, oh, we did that very well? Is there anything that you think, it was just one post, or it was probably a proper like promotion, or a whole thing? Yeah, so live videos, very engaging way. Oh, no worry, Lindsay. Just feel free to come and go as you can. Yeah, Facebook posts. Yeah, stories updated with photos and sometimes videos. I think a few of the organizations that I support manage their communities very well. A few have Facebook groups that they use to stay in touch with like their supporter base. And I think that others have WhatsApp groups. I think that the WhatsApp groups and a few of them have found strategies around pushing fundraisers through WhatsApp, which I think have worked for them. Yeah, posted on all platforms, right? I think that, cross-posting works as well for us. It's a little bit taxing when you are in several platforms, but I think it works well. When you have like a proper management support calendar thingy. What do you wish you could do better? Yeah, raise money. That's right. I think we all want to do better in raising money. I think that for help people, I would like to see more international fundraising because it's very local based. Maybe in the case of other organizations I support, I think I would like to see more consistency in the messaging, as well as just, posting more frequently. And I think all in all, some organizations are not, of the ones I support, are not perhaps rallying their communities. They're not doing their community building as efficiently as they should. They have followers, but they are not sort of like, constantly in contact with them. It's more like a one-way communication. And what would you need to do it better? Yes, Mary.
Hi, I was typing an answer and then it occurred to me that perhaps you would like to speak.
Yeah, that's good.
So I have started researching, grants that we're eligible for. We've joined Grant Station and things like that. I would love to speak with someone who has written successful grants, because I don't think the field matters so much. I understand the need to, read the grant eligibility, read previous grants that people have received from the organization. I think it would just give me a bit more confidence in the submissions. We have not yet begun our submissions, but that's the part I'm concerned about. I mean, I don't know, even if you look up, how hard is it in reality?
Yeah, so what I take it from what you say, Mary, is to be able to sustain that like fundraising activities and balance that with other activities that we are taking place, but also like sort of develop the capacity to do them all, which seems like very overwhelming. And it's kind of like, well, maybe hopefully one of the ways that we can help with that is creating that system. Part of that system would have to be balancing the grants for, mostly restricted funding with, social media for unrestricted funding. And I'm gonna ask you then, why are we using social media at all then? If we have grants, if we have like donors, big donors, why would we use social media? Where does social media fit in our strategy? So the way I see it, yeah, is what everybody does it, right? Yeah, we have fundraising is such a taxing activity for us time-wise, and we are very, time is the most valuable resource that we all have. For those who Dave says we don't want to be left behind. I think actually that we use social media to sort of generate those resources, in fact. Now, I'm gonna make a line here. I'm gonna say we're not gonna talk about community outreach when we are using social media in this particular workshop, because to increase your service uptake, you should have a specific project or program, unless you are a community-based organization that is working to deliver services for that specific organization. If you are not, then you should not be mixing the both, because mixing your fundraising social media with your outreach or service uptake social media actually creates, like dilutes your message, as well as it makes it less safe and comfortable for your donors, because now your donors are going to be hounded by your beneficiaries. Maybe they could get targeted by scammers, which we have a lot of, all the time when in our groups where we have these sort of connections, like, for example, Help a Sister. We have these organizations, these donor or supporters there, and they get all the time like unwanted messages from others asking them for money because, oh, I live in Ukraine and whatnot, and turns out they're just scammers somewhere in Africa or in the Middle East, and they are not having anything to do with what is happening on the ground. We are indeed primarily disaster relief, and so if you want to increase your outreach for your beneficiaries, I have another resource here in the deck. However, today we're going to talk about how you can use social media to increase your contact with supporters and enrich that donor cycle, how to find them, how to keep them engaged, how to move them on through the stages so that they become long life supporters. We're also going to use social media to rally the support of digital humanitarians. Now, I'm a digital humanitarian, and my digital humanitarian or digital responder tasks are ranging from making sure that you get what you need, all the way to fundraising, all the way to delivering these voluntary trainings. And the idea is that I hope you take it that there's a whole bunch of people out there willing to support. Maybe some of them are not activists yet, and your call is what activates them. And you can create your own digital humanitarian network, such as a Facebook group or platform, or as followers. It doesn't matter how, but what you want is to use this social media to be able to activate these absolute amazing volunteers that we're still missing, that will fundraise for you, that will write these grants for you, all of these people. And if you want to know more about how social media works or to support us during disaster response, you can see the link. It is true, we are primarily disaster relief, and that means that we are very reactive to the needs of what happens in the ground. And in order to do that, we need to consume social media as well as put it out there. Yeah, so be able to pass messages from what is happening in the ground to the donors that we're talking and engaging with. So we sort of work as an amplifier of that message. This is where activism comes. So we are also activists in a way, and we promote awareness about what is going on the ground. Are there any other reasons why we would want to have social media? I think that as part of our brand awareness, for example, we could use our social media to generate some how do you call that, legitimacy? Yeah, some legitimacy of our work, because someone that has never heard of us on the ground, or our beneficiaries, or someone else that is a potential donor, once they hear our name, they want to know what we do, and so they will go and check our social media. Yes, Mary.
One of the things that, in speaking to exactly what you said, like the people working disaster response at Fill the Needs have been doing so for 17 years. However, the paperwork, we just filed the paperwork to become an official 501c3 a little bit over a year ago, because we started working in Afghanistan, Ukraine, and as far as donors, especially when it comes to international, want the legal side covered. And so the social media actually was great, because there was already the platform and the support and 17 years worth of information that was there for people to see. What we need to do, like you said, is turn that into more money.
Yeah. And so this is a way in which you can do that. And we're going to talk about how to do that in the next sections. So today, on top of the, on top of what we decided we're going to do, the step-by-step, creating of humanitarian successful posts, we will also create our first Facebook post, and we'll talk about key principles of social media marketing that can elevate your marketing. But one of the points in the step-by-step will be as well how to manage historic data and archive posting. Yeah. So these are the 4 steps that you have to process a successful humanitarian post, and it's going to be a lot heavier on the prepare side, so bear with me. It seems like a lot, but it's actually a few steps, and mind you, all of these is sort of ideal, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that if you don't have it, you will not succeed. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing something wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need it. Perhaps it will make your life easier. Perhaps it will help you, generate that value faster. So consider it, best practice advice more than anything. So before we begin, I want you to know your donor supporter personas. And we have talked about this. I don't know, Mary, if you were in that training, but we talked about, so we talked about how you can sort of understand the donors that you have and consider how you want to speak to them. We do have the recording of the training, so you can actually check it back, but it's very simple. It's literally just a card where you find out who a person is, and you say, for example, I have a donor, Vanessa, she's 25, she's a young professional, and then you create a whole story around them. And you don't have to know them directly to know how they might think, what they might want, right? It's just about answering these hypothetical questions that you might have. Maybe you already know them. Maybe you already have one donor in mind that this person has supported you, and like if you find more like this person, you will have more support. So based on that, we create our whole, sort of messaging around them. And I'm gonna go back to that in a minute. So we start with a fundraising strategy or social media management strategy paired to that. We have spoken about this as well in another training. Is basically you define your goals for the organization on donor acquisition, on donor engagement, and on donor retention. You define the SMART goals, then you talk about the obstacle, targets, and actions. And once you have those, some of them will translate into social media presence. What that looks like is with a content calendar. Say, for example, well, Vanessa, our donor that is 25, well, we want to engage her more. She already donates to us. We want to engage her more, or maybe we want more like Vanessa. So this is how we do it. We go to her social media of preference and we post there, and we make sure that we speak to her message and that we engage with her. However we can. We can have automated planners to help us manage these, such as Buffer, which is a tool that allows us to plan up to a year or more in advance, up to 10 posts per platform per month. So you could actually have 2 posts per week, which is really more than enough, and have the time to plan them and post them. And then you can have like a post on the what do you call them? Internet, like high times. I don't know how you call them, like rush hour on internet. And rush hour on internet is Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 to 6 p.m. And so what you do is, if you have worldwide donors, then you post around those times in central time, so that you cover Asia and you cover USA. But otherwise, you can always just narrow it to your 4 p.m. local, or the 4 p.m. local to your donors. And so what you do is you make sure that you have posts on those 2 times, and you can create free spaces to post around the others. Then you have to prepare a comm strategy based on your goals and your outcomes. And this is a new one. We didn't spoke about this in any other workshop. comm strategy is basically a one-pager where you clarify the message that you're going to tell to people. You do that through these questions that I have posted here, which comes from charitycoms.org.uk. And you start with these questions. You ask yourself, where are we now? Yeah, what are our organizational priorities? You know, what is the situation? How can we achieve that more? Which is based on your SMART goals and your fundraising strategy. Hi, Steve, how are you? All right, so we are talking about comm strategy. And then what we see is we move to the where do we want to be, you know? In this case, we all want to raise more funds, engage more our donors. So we, you know, define what our PR objectives are. So what are our objectives to communicate? And then we talk about how we will reach them, you know? If we have our donor, which was a donor, our donor persona was Vanessa. If we want to engage more Vanessa, then what do we have to tell Vanessa to engage her? If our interest is as well, for example, on engaging other organizations that are providing grants, then as well, what kind of message do we want to put out there? Because you can have different messages for what you want to do. Like, do we want to evacuate people, or do we want to talk about our transport of donations, you know? And they are both things that usually happen hand in hand. You drive in donations, you take beneficiaries out, you take evacuations, people evacuate, you evacuate people out, but you can actually choose which one of those you communicate depending on who you're talking to. Because some people will have a lot of more interest in the value of that life taken, you know, evacuated from a hot zone, and some other organizations will have a more higher interest in the donations that you're bringing in. So how are you keeping people fed, or if you're helping them with heating elements and stuff like that. So it's about targeting, you know, who are your donor personas and how do you communicate this with them. I'm going to talk here about the three P's of communication strategies for charities: principles, population, and purpose. So what you want to know is what you're saying based on the principles that you have, like the humanitarian principles and other principles that might come across in this workshop. The population. Is this helpful and empowering to the population? Is this useful for the population? Are we supporting the population with this message? And the purpose, is this serving us in our purpose, whatever our purpose is? And if it's yes, then, you know, we have that message now embedded in our comm strategy. And what we should do is make sure that everything we put out there is aligned to our comm strategy and these key messages that we want to put out there. So I keep talking about the key messages for comm strategies. And what we want ideally is this sort of marketing messaging attached to the donor persona, right? So in this case, one of my donors is Paul, who is an energy professional, and my charity is a solar power charity. So with that donor persona, what I can do is translate Paul's internal narratives into my message so that I can reach them. So Paul is looking for a solar energy advocate because he's an advocate himself and he just wants to be surrounded by other people like him. So I am going to be your partner, Paul. I'm going to help the solar industry grow through awareness and education. This is what I will tell Paul to get his support. You know, then you can also craft an elevator pitch based on this, which will make it easier for you to, if you find another Paul, to be able to convey your message in the way that they want to hear it. The idea is that you create a yes moment for them that reflects their narrative. And this is very useful for message to market match, we call it. And so it's basically making sure that you are filling that gap that your donors feel. Are there any questions so far? So next, we check the social media guidelines to prepare. Now, social media guidelines are just so that you're consistent across platforms and across, posts. And what they are is sort of like little rules written that you can use for yourself, but also your team, to be able to provide that, that consistency across posts. For example, here we see the posts of the Red Cross. How do we know they are all from the same organization? How do we know that they are all, from the Red Cross? It's because they follow a certain format. They have the same letter type. They have the same colors. They, align in the message that they're trying to deliver. And even the ones that, have different colors to the standard ones, they still follow the guide. So if you want to know how to create a social media guideline, you can check the link here. But really, it's nothing more than just making sure that people will know it's you when they see you scrolling through their feed. That's it. If I see this red color, I know that because I'm following the Red Cross, this is from the Red Cross. Or even if I'm not following them, if they come often enough in my feed, I will know it's them. And if it's something I'm interested, I will probably stop and check what it is. Are there any questions so far? Any comments? Any experience that you want to share about this? Yes, Mary, I have sent the slides on the group, on the UNCN group. If you need them, you can email me directly at diana@helppeople.org.ua. Diana@helppeople.org.ua. It's also on the thing. I'm gonna, I can write it. Hold on. Yeah, I think that indeed, Dave, a style guide is important. It generates a certain familiarity with you. So what happens is when someone that has not particularly paid attention to your posts finally pay attention to your posts, they will be, oh yeah, no, I know these guys from forever. They've been doing amazing work just because I know them. So this plays on a bias that we all have, which is like a familiarity bias, where you tend to think that whatever you know is good. You've seen it before, it means it's good. Even if you don't particularly record it being as good or negative or positive, it's just the fact that you remember it is sort of like, yeah, I know this is good. So that's precisely what we want when we do something like, a guide style. And it works very well, I would say. So yeah, put a little bit more of attention on like which elements of your brand you're repeating on all your posts. When it comes to preparing, then we move to the post aim. So now we know we have the guideline at hand, we have our comms and our key messages out, we have our donor personas that we want to like work because we want to engage them more or whatever. Then we want to solidify that post aim. So what is it that we want to do with this? Do we want to share news about the organization? Is it about brand recognition? Is it about sharing news about the cause, about fundraising? Whatever you choose that is in this page, it should align with your goal from your fundraising strategy. Is it retaining the donor? Is it about getting new donors? Is it about making sure that your donors are donating? So you move through any of these options that you have here, and with that option, then you move to the next. By the way, this page is also good for not-for-profits that are not charities. So you can also use the same things like to increase your membership, your volunteers, or your recruitment. A lot of it is like building trust. Some of it would be increasing traffic, building the relationships, driving donations. You especially like feel the needs, for example, with such a long trajectory without being a formal charity. You guys are aware that you don't need a charity to be successful. You can be successful in your own right if you tap on the right community support, on the right support, that the right supporters with the right message, and you tap into that appetite that they have to provide this specific help. Are there any other reasons you think for like any other, when it comes to fundraising, are there any other like aims you could have that are not mentioned here? I think one reason that is not mentioned here, for example, is when you wanna like yeah. So when you want to get regular monthly donors. Oh, Mary, this is a question that we already resolved in another workshop. I'll get back to you after the workshop, no worries. But one of the ways in which we have used as well social media is to reach out to other organizations that are doing similar work to us but are not associated with us, and that's because we're looking for partnerships. So because we are trying to appear like partners, it might actually generate a partnership in the future, and we've done that with some small level of success in other organizations. Like just so presenting them like, partners of UN partners, and you just start sort of working your way, and eventually, you become sort of like a familiar organization to them. Yeah. Yeah, networking with other orgs can also boost your posts as well. Yeah, so you can always use your post to thank as well, like your donors. So right now here we're just talking about like high level intentions. I would say that thanking your donors is part of that as well. Thanking your donors or inviting donations, that it counts as fundraising one, and the other one counts as trust building. But yeah, whatever you have to do to enrich the donor life cycle. Right. So then we choose which donor persona are we talking to, which we already kind of have, but now we solidify it. And we want to think, this is the donor persona we're talking to. What message do we have to give them in order for this message to reach them? I am going to clarify here that for crisis response, fundraising content should be with your donor persona in mind, all of it. Beneficiary campaigns should ideally be in a separate form or minimal, like I mentioned, because it's just difficult to manage. And it puts your donors at risk and actually might make them uncomfortable or give them a sense of lack of trust with you. So if you want to, run humanitarian crisis campaigns or for beneficiaries, you can check this link, which will help you do that. But I would say, if possible, make sure that you have different channels. Yeah, and that if you have to raise your uptake, you run a specific campaign for that, and you try to keep it as contained as possible, because it is a waste of your resources and your time. The reason being that if you're doing good work, beneficiaries will find you because they come recommended by other organizations, they come recommended by the government, they come recommended by other beneficiaries, they come recommended, or maybe not even recommended, they just find you there. And so if you are investing resources in time, money, volunteers into running campaigns online for people that will either way find you, you are wasting your time, your money, your effort, and the effort of your volunteers. Instead, focus on reaching out to your beneficiaries and your donors, to your donors, and your beneficiaries will find you. Does that make sense? Does somebody else have a different experience to me? I don't know, I'm just this is just what I've seen, but there's I guess there's not like one particular rule. So yeah, I always take everything I say with a tinge of Exceptionalism. Mary, I wanted to say, I don't know if it's your first training, but one thing that we talked about is that all of this can be put into question. The reason being that it's an ever-changing world, and we are here to innovate. And a lot of us are innovators in our field, in our humanitarian work field. So if we have done something else and it has worked, that's brilliant. So if whatever I say is not set in stone, I gladly get proven wrong. Right. So next, we go talk about the platform and format. Now, this, what we see here below, is a donor persona. Now, donor personas can look very different. So you can have different formats or different ways in which your organization maps their donor personas. It can be very detailed or it can be very little detail. In this case, we have Karen, and we have Karen's story and the demographics of Karen's. What is more important for this particular part of the preparation stage is the engagement. We want to see, what is the engagement, the platforms where she engages, or how does she engage with us? Does she engage with us through our collection points? Does she engage to us through mail or through Facebook or Twitter? This is where we should be focusing our efforts in. And there will be many platforms, many platforms, and you can actually use different strategies for each of the platforms. But I would say first go back and look at your donors and think about which donors you want more of, and try to tailor your strategy based on the platforms that these donors that you want more of are, so that you're not spreading yourself too thin, which is something that can always happen with social media, because there's so many platforms out there. So yeah, understanding which platform your donors are, meet your donors where they are at, and then it's gonna simplify your process. So you define the platform and the format, and now we move on to the creation stage. Yeah. Now, for consideration in this phase of the process, we need to understand the context, the copy, and the audiovisual materials, specificity in the situation. I'm going to explain now. When we see this post looks very innocent. It's as well lovely work. This is in Yaroviv, where the International Center for Peacekeeping and Security was taking place. Ukraine will defend itself voluntarily, massively, regardless of age and social status. The problem with this post is that it violates many rules of OPSEC. OPSEC. We are in a context where Russia doesn't differentiate humanitarians from Ukrainian partisans. And it's not just in Ukraine, it's also in Iraq. And it's also in other parts, in other conflicts where they have been active. And it happens in almost every conflict that humanitarians are somewhat caught in the middle. So please, in the case of Russia, they have a very strong intel online, and they are constantly collecting information online of volunteers, of humanitarians. Volunteers and beneficiaries in this particular war have died because of Russia not distinguishing humanitarians from Ukrainian partisans. You may be, by posting something like this, opening the locals to persecution. You might be putting them and their families at risk, but you might also be putting yourself in the target. You might also be putting them in the target. We had, in the case of Syria, for example, that many humanitarians had their families kidnapped and killed and threatened because Russia got wind that they were activists through online, even if they were in Europe. So please be absolutely mindful of these. Some recommendations are, please procure not to give accurate location, names, car plates, dates, times, avoid targeting volunteers, beneficiary location, vehicles, donors. Delay any posts that are OPSEC sensitive, such as, for example, evacuations. Be as vague as you can afford. The vaguer you can be, the less the risks you run for your organizations. And ask your volunteers to do the same. If possible, to change their names, their dates of birth on social media, to also not post about the things that you're doing at the moment. change the pictures and post metadata or pass them through a filter such as just a screenshot. So if you screenshot the picture, the metadata of that new picture is going to be your phone. So if I'm in UK, then I will not have to, clean the background of the metadata of the picture. We say this because if you go to Twitter, you can actually find the metadata of the location of the pictures. And so, yeah, please just follow this. It will avoid your warehouse being bombed, your cars being bombed, beneficiaries dying, volunteers dying, people facing persecution. Even if they are already in, outside of the conflict, their families might face that persecution. Are there any questions or comments or any other recommendations for OPSEC? For those who will rewatch the video even. All right. So now we're going to talk about the humanitarian context. Understanding the humanitarian context is, it's a very unique context. You might know a lot about marketing, but you don't know exactly about marketing for humanitarians. It's a very specific, sensitive context, I guess. One of the things that we have to deal with is working with people, with vulnerable people and people of special concern. Well, people of special concern are those who might be put there might be a higher risk of exploitation. It could be elderly, it could be women, it could be children. So just to understand better how we can do this from a humanitarian point of view that protects vulnerable people, children, for all UN posts, and I would recommend all organizations to do this in general, even if you're not UN partners, just children must have their faces, names, locations protected and blurred. If you're working with an orphanage as well, do not post the face of the orphan, do not post the name of the orphan, do not post the location if you can. Just make sure that you're blurring their faces and you're blurring their names, and you're just making sure that they are not going to fall victim of online traffickers. Because it can happen in real life and it can happen online. However, I must say we have real life traffickers. We had the case in Greece where there were bands of human traffickers that were targeting women and children. So every time you posted a post and there was someone that looked interesting to them, they would actually go wait for them on the bottlenecks of the route and wait for them and sort of like ambush them and kind of like either steal them or bribe them, offer them stuff, and then like in the end they would end up in the traffickers' hands. So please make sure that people of special concerns, also other vulnerable people, not just children, but also all other vulnerable people such as women and elderly. Just make sure that you are concealing as much of the information as you can. Yeah. And always ask for consent. Children cannot give consent. So in that case, you ask the carers, but you always have to ask for consent when you're taking pictures of locals or of beneficiaries. And even when given consent, even if they say, yes, you can take my picture, consider the risks of trafficking targeting that they don't understand, but you do. Yeah. Err on the side of caution, please. Then when we talk about the humanitarian context, we also have to talk about the humanitarian principles. And the humanitarian principles are dictated by the UN, but I think, again, most charities are expected to abide by the humanitarian principles in their work if they are registered charities, but also others that are not registered charities are expected, such as, again, we have the humanitarian principles, the principle of humanity, which is, the suffering of people should be reduced, and whatever we do should not cause more harm. And it should protect their life and respect their humanity. Then there is the principle of neutrality, in which humanitarian actors must not take side in hostilities or engage in controversies of a political, racial, religious, or ideological nature. And then we have the principle of impartiality, where we have to be seen as impartial in our decisions based on nationality, race, gender, religious belief, class, or political opinion. And we have to have operational independence, which is, be independent from, autonomous from political, economic, military, or other objectives and actors. Now, how that looks like is, for example, we are not expected to post any army pictures. Army support is not very well looked at. The same as no post about the baddies and criticizing one of the sides, which I know is very hard, especially if you are impartial. Now, this is mostly for charities that, 100% humanitarians. If you are a not-for-profit and work with the army, I think you are already aware of how you should do this better. So it's not like that's bad, I don't think it's bad. I think that in a crisis, all of us fulfill a role. Yeah, and so in this case of the Ukrainian context, a lot of us understood that the best solution was to support the army. And so some people went to support the army and others went to support humans because, the humanitarian civilian aid was also necessary. And it's not like one or the other is worse or better. It's just, I think, different ways of working. This is the first war where it's been very clear cut that, it's an unfair conflict in a way, I think. And that's the reason why this has, in a way, never particularly happened before, in a way, like it's never really been that clear cut. So yeah, you can, 100%, there's not like one good or bad way to do, but this is just what charities are expected to do. No post about the baddies then. Also manage a neutral tone and focus on the impact. For example, if you're taking handshaking pictures with the government officials or with the army, instead of, saying, oh yeah, we're here with the army and like, we're brothers in arms or whatever, instead try and manage it in a more neutral way. Like, oh, we achieved coordination, we achieved cooperation with so-and-so party in order for us to be able to deliver this aid more effectively or whatever. Just make sure that it keeps that neutral tone. Make sure that there's no racist, religious, classist, or political posts. And we have had this many times over in the press with the Ukrainian crisis, where the press said, oh, it's white people that's being hurt. And these sort of racial undertones are actually a violation, indirect violation of the humanitarian principles. And then again, show your humanity. Make sure that you are providing dignifying equality for the affected. Make sure that your message is not actually making them look like less resilient or less capable. Is there anything else that you think could serve as a good point here? Yes, so it is acceptable to state facts. If you say Russia attacked a village and their generator was destroyed, that's top. And then talk about how you're going to fix it. But if you say, oh, the evil, the evil Russia or again, bombed this village, and it might come as if you are, taking side in a conflict. And I have said this before in another workshop, and I will say it again. I have taken a side on this conflict. I am not a humanitarian anymore. I'm an activist humanitarian. So I can 100% tell you, I will rage about all the evil that Russia is doing in Ukraine, but I'm not a charity. And in fact, if I were to become part of a charity, that might be a point of concern for you, because my social media might reflect on your image, right? So it's all I'm gonna say now. And so, yeah, just be mindful of these sort of things. In the end, it's about what works for you. I wanted to say, for example, we have Prytula Foundation, and Prytula Foundation is Ukrainian. Now, in Ukraine, no one is judging you for providing aid to the military. No one is judging you because it's their war, right? And so the government that provides the charity permits, they are the ones that say, yes, you're a charity or not. And Prytula Foundation is a charity in Ukraine, and they say, fuck it. And what we see is that Prytula actually raises funds for the army, has raised funds for drones like the Bayraktars and stuff like that, that for me in another war would have been insane to think, because we never saw anything like this before in a sort of like viral war where it's the first crowd-funded. Pritula, I'm gonna write it down for you. It's the first a crowd-funded war in the world. I'm sorry, foundation. Yeah, there you go. And so for me, this is like insane. We're in uncharted territories, right? So look, whatever works for you works for you. Yeah. Another thing to think about when you're creating posts, woke culture. We are in a very different era of the world than we were 10 years ago. And it's insane the amount of changes that we have achieved. Also about, activism and people, political awareness and participation. And I think that that so-called woke culture is part of that, which is amazing. I think that right now people are questioning more the structures of power and the structures of exploitation than before. And the result of that is, unfortunately, that a lot of our actions are judged extra, right? So we are actually asked to put a little bit more effort on what we're putting out there. And so one of the things that we have to be wary of as charities is misery posts and poverty porn. This post here is it's been given as an example. It talks about this is the last, food that they had the day the photograph was taken, and then after that it's gone. And this is shocking, and it's supposed to collect, to get you, to engage with it, to donate, to feel bad about it and donate, but really it's exploiting them. Because instead of taking a picture, you should have been feeding them. Because instead of posting their pictures here, you should have been there helping them, right? Many other reasons why this is like important. Trauma porn, yes, indeed, Ala. So trauma porn, and we see it a lot as well with like fake propaganda. So we have to understand ourselves as humanitarians, as donors, as people that are engaged in supporting the locals, that we are also victim of propaganda. So we also have to start questioning, or be a little bit more protected when it comes to certain propaganda, like, oh, this child, there was something about 2 weeks ago, like a child that got killed, and then it was a picture everywhere in like the Ukrainian posts, and about how he's like starving because there's no food in the shelter. Turns out this picture was 2-3 weeks old. So no, sorry, not 3 weeks old, was 2-3 years old, from another, like, I don't know, situation, or another like image bank or whatever. And it had nothing to do with Ukraine. And that's not to say that there aren't kids in Ukraine right now that are dying of starvation in shelters or in the bunkers, but we cannot we have to be aware about the information we're putting out there, the information we're consuming, because this actually undermines all of our efforts, not just yours, not just mine. Another thing to be wary of, white saviorism. And I know that we don't have a lot to do with this in Ukraine, but you still sort of see some of it when it comes to people's opinion on what Ukraine should do and what should happen and what should not be happening. And I think that in a lot of ways, really none of that should matter, but the opinion of the Ukrainians, because they are the ones that are in the war. They are the ones that should decide. So we do have a lot of like chat between organizations that support Ukraine, for example, is it like agreeing a peace treaty. You do have some of this like engagement on we think that, and we want the Ukrainians to do it this way. That's also a small part of white saviorism, and this became quite poignant in about, for example, people opposing the visas for Russian, for example. Now, a lot of people said, no, Russians need to flee as well. But a lot of Ukrainians I met were opposed. And as someone from a war myself, I understand why they oppose it. And I thought, you know, it was as well the same as with like, what was it? Defending the cities and stuff like that. Like, saying that only men can stay in Ukraine. Is like, why are just men staying in Ukraine? Why are not women as well? And I think all of this comes from a very privileged place where a lot of Europeans, Americans, New Zealanders, and from all the parts of the world that have not had war, that never had to fight for their freedom, you know, kind of lack that understanding. And so I think that you have to first hear what the locals want and what they need and sort of support them. And just like with your digital humanitarians, you should not be aiming at replacing the local opinion. You should not be aiming at replacing the local support, the local infrastructure. You should be there to support it. And so as humanitarians, we should not have an opinion on what Ukrainians want, but we should actually just support them in their will, you know, however long we want, we can do that. Another thing we should, you know, try to overcome stereotyping. Men are brave, women are weak, and this is a stereotype that still plays to this day, with like the woman in the army being objectified, in the Ukrainian army being objectified, a little bit less than the men, unfortunately. But we also see it with other areas, like, for example, there's a lot of stereotypation about you know, the Ukrainians being brave and kind of showing this resilience part. I think that stereotyping hurts, even if it's a positive stereotype, because it actually puts more pressure on the local community to perform that stereotype. It actually puts people on a place where they feel observed and they feel objectified, and it doesn't matter, you know, whatever it is, if it's a positive or a negative stereotype, it's difficult to balance that narrative. Does anybody have any example of how stereotyping has played in this war as well? Like, which other stereotypes we have come across? So as I was mentioned, we have as well the racist undertones, which have happened as well. I met one charity manager that was talking about the war and how the West is allowing like white people to be killed, and it's just really, I would say, undermining your work, really, if you kind of you know, don't become aware of these undertones. Racist and sexist undertones, I must say, are quite important. Avoid all white male panels. And I know this is difficult because most people in Ukraine are actually males that are there to, you know, support the war. And I know that a lot of women, a lot of volunteers are also male from a military former backgrounds, or males that, you know, are a little bit more keen on running risks. But if you can avoid it, if you can make an effort, just do it. If you can just, you know, interview outside of the field, you know, other people that are doing amazing work, white, that are not white, or that are disabled, or that are, you know, female, just do it. It's necessary that we also show these people that are also part of you know, victimhood, like that have a part of the victimhood of this war, and who are also dealing with their own set of disadvantages. And so it's important for us to sort of you know, bring it to notice. So yeah, lack of diversity, equity, and inclusion in your posts, in your social media. Another thing that is worth noticing misrepresentation, because words matter. So we're seeing here in the top picture, the brew boss dog had to pay £500,000 in gold. Sorry, £500,000 because of a post on Twitter that he shared where he said like, oh, the lucky winners will win a can of gold. Sorry, a can of gold. And these cans were not 100% gold, they were gold plated. And so because they were gold plated, the people that won them actually gone against them in a tribunal or court, and they have won because it was misrepresenting what they were doing. Yeah, thank you, Dave. I'll see you then. I look forward to the proposal on the for the fundraising grant. Yeah. Right, so misrepresentation, and how that looks like in our case is when you, for example, claim credit about something. Like if you say, oh, we set up we set up, yeah, you guys seeing my, by the way, have you guys seen my my screen yet? I think you're. So when you have set up you know, you say we have set up this center, and when you look, turns out the center was set up by you, but someone else funded it, or the center, you know, there was a team trying to set up the thing and you funded it. And so it's different, and you have to try and give credit where due, because otherwise you will be struggling to, you know, honor your partners, honor your donors, and sort of keep those great relationships that you already have going. Again, do not whitewash or first world wash your posts. And I was talking about the having an opinion on things. Now, here below, I'm going to show you how that looks like as well. These on the picture on the bottom, you can see it's from Amnesty International, and they sent this mail, a brief thingy, and in there were like a Ukrainian and a Russian hugging. And so that felt to a lot of Ukrainians like a slap in the face. Now, not that we need to understand where Amnesty International stands when it comes to conflict, but that whole pacifist kind of thing is a little bit of comes from a place of privilege, where they are not the ones that are fighting for their existence. They're not the ones that have been invaded, and they are not the ones that have been surviving Russia's genocides throughout hundreds of years of history. Remain sensitive to the struggles of those you are helping. That's I think summarizes it all well, and be connected with the reality of the beneficiaries. Now, I'm going to show you how that looks like when it goes wrong from the other side, from the side of a third world person, from the side of you know, like how we perceive these things to be when you're outside of that bubble. Can you all hear it? No? Okay, hold on. I'm gonna open it in YouTube. Wait a minute. Can you hear it? Oh, let me see if I can. Oh, sorry, hold on. I have to change my audio settings, I think. Still not? Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Hold on. Okay, maybe this helps it. Yeah, good. Okay, so it's there again.
Here at Africa Corp, we are not just about business, we care about people. It is important to our brand to make sure that we give back to those who are less fortunate than us. heard of Radiate, I didn't know that so many people in Norway were suffering. So today, I'm introducing the board to a new project that I know everyone is going to be excited about. I am very excited. Imagine a world with no sun, with no warmth, without smiles. That is a reality for the people of Norway. I turned the air conditioning on full today. Can you feel it? Yes. That is just a small taste of what they are facing.
Let's just not forget about Brexit. It's affecting the whole Europe. They need us now, more than ever.
And Africa Corp has the technology to make their lives better. That is why we are teaming up with a local charity, Radiate 2.0, by us, Africa Corp, to be the face of our campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Breezy. Hey, Breeze, my brother. Hey.
I'm pretty sure that flag is from Denmark.
What about powering the heaters? Do they have capacity?
I heard they're running out of oil. It could be a problem.
I'm pretty sure they use
The
hydro.
new radiators will be powered by solar panels, giving them warmth throughout the year.
Even in the dark winters.
As well as making them much greener for the environment.
We should add that to our logo. Climate change is a huge issue right now. We should let people know we are doing our part.
They also have a silence noise filter to deter against predators.
Predators. Like polar bears.
No. They have a problem with wolves now.
Oh, I hear they're roaming the streets and they don't know how to control them.
Really?
What about the rain?
Yes, it is as bad as the snow.
We should throw some umbrellas as well.
Most importantly, we have social media pages to show that we are doing our part to stop this epidemic.
It's starting to sound like this is becoming more about us than it is about the Norwegians.
No. We don't do that here.
When do we start?
The radiators are ready for shipping. All we have to do is load them on the plane. Winter is coming. We are going to spread some warmth, spread some smiles, and say yes to Radiate 2.0 by Africa Corp. I think we're going to change a lot of lives. I have a hope that one day no one will be cold in Norway.
So how did you feel about that? Oh, sorry, I cannot hear you. Hold on a minute. I have to change my my settings. How do I do that nowadays? No. Oh. Oh, hold on a minute. No. Not again. Zoom. There we go. I think here. Sorry, my preferences are not okay, so I cannot hear you. Yeah, there we go. I think I can hear you now. Oh no, still not. I can hear you now. Oh no, still not. Can you speak?
That was hysterical.
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yeah, so see,
I was in the Peace Corps in East Africa, and so even funnier, you know, when you've lived someplace Yeah, and they tell you these things all the time.
Yeah, I think that you know, especially coming from Colombia, which has been one of the, I guess, most stereotyped countries out there after Africa, anything Africa. For me, this really sort of like rang a bell of recognition. There's a lot of things that we can do that continue to, you know, rally that support without taking away the dignity of our beneficiaries. And I think that it's important that we see it that way, that we understand, for starters, that as humanitarians, you know, it's not like the community itself wouldn't recovery. In fact, if we remember from the first workshop, we talked about the crisis recovery phases, and there's a natural recovery that happens, you know, even before humanitarians existed. Back in ancient Rome and back in the Greek times, they were already displaced people, and it's a natural sort of like, unfortunately, recurrent process that goes through, you know, from the start of humanity, where people have to lift up and start again somewhere else. And you know, we are here to support them. We're here to support them starting again. We are here to make sure that, you know, we all build back better, stronger, that the local communities, you know, we reduce the risk of those that can be exploited in these communities. But in that sense, you know, we can't, sorry, I'm going to mute you because I hear myself. Hold on. And in that sense, we are here not to, like, they would exist either way with us. We help them, we support them, and otherwise there will be someone else that supports them. Otherwise they will be finding other ways to help themselves. It's not to say that, you know, our work is invaluable. I think it's more about understanding that, yeah, our work is sort of optional to a degree. Although we want to, you know, we help, and we are aware that, you know, we are changing people's lives. It's understanding that, you know, all of that support is optional to a degree. I don't know if anyone has any different opinion. Gladly, I hear it. Right, so also make sure that your volunteers are aware of your comm strategy, that they're aware of your social media, guidelines, that they are aware of, you know, the fundraising strategy, and make sure they follow suit, because, you know, you don't want to be doing all this great work and then a volunteer on doing it on the backside. So perhaps make sure that your comm strategy is part of their onboarding strategy, that they understand, you know, the do's and don'ts when posting online, when advocating for your charity. By the way, here we have a Barbie Savior and Humanitarians of Tinder. These are two legit Instagram pages that make a lot of satire about precisely this point, that some humanitarians will not align to all of the things that we're talking about here. Right, about the woke culture. So we talked about a lot of things to be worried about, but we also talked about the things to be okay with within it. So to please the woke culture overlords, what you gotta do is show your integrity, be transparent, and be authentic. And I know it's difficult because a lot of our own personal opinions will get us in trouble, but it's okay. You know, just be as integral and transparent as you can afford. And don't be afraid to be called out. And also don't be afraid to hit a PR crisis. It happens to the best of us. And you see here Minds apologizing, you see here the Church of England apologizing. It's no one is mighty and higher than this. And here is a very useful link that you could use if you end up facing a PR crisis. Don't feed the trolls. If you have a page and it's like, you know, very small managed, and you have people coming to your page and telling you, but why are you not helping our local homeless instead? Because this is a comment that we get very often in our work. You know, in this case, there are ways in which you can, you know, atone for it. You can either ignore them, you can block them, or you can, you know, just simply make sure to you know, put them back into place without necessarily entering in a confrontation, like an extended confrontation with them. And one strategy that I use very often with the guys, the people that are asking these questions of why are you not helping our locals, which happens a lot here in the UK, because the UK is in a pretty bad social state at the moment, is, well, what are you doing about it? Yeah, and they will either say, I'm not doing anything, or I'm doing, you know, I'm volunteering with this organization, or they will shut up. But if they say, yes, I'm volunteering with this and so organization, or I'm bringing food or whatnot, then you say, brilliant, that's great. So you got them covered. So I can focus on these guys. You know, luckily there's enough in the world for everybody. And if they say, no, I'm not helping anybody, then you go and you tell them, then please, you know, do your part and let me do mine. And it's just an easy way to close that discussion. Come from that place of perhaps it's difficult to find, but understanding your own, you know, your own, you know, virtual signaling as well, because they are going to be there. People are going to be there virtual signaling you, and understanding as well how you respond to that virtual signaling sometimes yourself. Just managing it in a way that is very empathetic. This person really wants the best for their community, and maybe they just don't have the tools and power and skills to manage that. And then you can, you know, use your page to empower them to do that. And embrace change. So this is the Church of England here, apologizing for their links to transatlantic chattel slavery, which probably is more than a few decades old. I'm gonna say centuries. And so we see reality changes. We see reality changes, and it's okay, you know, if you say, you know what, I was wrong. I was wrong back then, or I'm wrong, you know, having taken this posture, I'm wrong, and correct yourself. That's okay. We're all humans, and if you are facing waves, is because you're creating waves. Sorry, I'm going to read you. Have you ever had someone from a previous campaign feel that because you have photos on the website of previous project, you are not raising more money than that you are not giving them? Yes. So archival posts have a specific sort of like, they come with their own challenges. I'm going to address it in a minute. For now, I want to close with the woke culture, reminding you always the 3 Ps: principles, population, and purpose. Is this principled? Is this abiding by the humanitarian principles? Is this, you know, population? Is this protecting the people? Is this, you know, dignifying the people that we are supporting? Is this not putting them at risk? And then purpose: is this serving our purpose? Are we, you know, doing something that will reflect positive on our mission, on our goals? So don't be afraid to apologize. Like I said, this is as well an apology from Oxfam about Haiti, actually, where, you know, it was really bad. I don't know if you guys want to read about it, but there was a lot of sexual exploitation and abuse. It says, to Oxfam supporters, friends, and volunteers, we are so sorry for the appalling behavior that happened in our name. More than anything, we are sorry to the people of Haiti and other places where the conduct of Oxfam staff has been reprehensible. The sexual misconduct of former Oxfam employees in Haiti during 2011 and in Chad during 2006 should never have happened. We should have been more explicit in our reporting of these incidents. We are listening. As an organization that supports women's rights, these events are particularly hard to bear. We know that you put your trust in us, and these devastating reports will have damaged that trust. We want you to know that we are working hard to rebuild it. We have made massive improvements since 2011, like establishing whistleblowing procedures and a safeguarding team. It hasn't been enough. So now we're working closely with the government and the charity commissions and will more than triple Oxfam's safeguarding capacity globally to better protect the people we serve. Ensure we listen to and look after people who come forward as a result of these measures. We will always be transparent. And they have some other like points. They actually put this on all of their UK stores, and they also posted it online, and I don't know what else they did. But if you want to know how to apologize, you have here like, you know, a nice link that will help you. It's very normal, very common. You cannot control what everybody does. And I think that it's more important that you become aware and recognize these mistakes, especially since on social media, you will be called out. And again, we have that as well with like the Red Cross always has a lot of criticism about Ukraine and how their funds haven't reached Ukraine, for example, right now. So it's very interesting to see in these posts how they react and what they are doing about it, which is so for now nothing, and they don't really engage with this sort of posts or replies from negative people. But I hope that one day they will, you know. But it's just hoping. And that means that their trust is void. Now, a lot of people that follows the Red Cross is not donating to the Red Cross because of how many Ukrainians and Ukrainian supporting people have come to their page and left messages about don't donate for Ukraine. Right. So how are we doing so far? We managed to move through like the whole, you know, first planning part of the post. Are there any comments, any suggestions, any thoughts that come our way? Yeah, no, the Red Cross, I mean, in general, I think the problem with big NGOs is that they are not as operational like as they could be because of bureaucracy. But it's, you know, again, in this crisis, all of us play a part. And I think that to a degree, this sort of bureaucracy is necessary for sustainability of the sector, I guess, because there will be donors that require this. And you know, if this is not your cup of tea, then all you can do is make sure that your organization remains as, you know, as operational as possible with as least bureaucracy as you can manage. And what you see is eventually the system matures and it goes the same. Yeah, it's really tragic. We have now a scandal on the press about the Red Cross millions, like the Canadian Red Cross fundraised millions for Ukraine, and of those millions, nothing has reached Ukraine, or a very minor part, and is now like hot in the news. And so these sort of developments and seeing how they manage it can also give you an idea of how you can manage it. Yeah, as well. Right. So when we talk about the post, so we went from preparation all the way to doing it. So create. So how do you create a post? Well, you first start with your copy. Actually, I guess it's not like there's a first step or not. I think you just you know, can create the copy first or choose the picture first. It doesn't matter, but I'm just gonna narrate it in this order. Copy is everything written on what you're sharing. And to do this, you have to write a clear message. Yeah, have an understanding of what the key message is that you want to share there, reflecting the internal narrative of donors. So making sure that when you talk, your donor hears themselves read it and say, yes, you know, like this is what I think. Don't repeat your mission too often. That is one of the things I constantly do, which actually undermines your message. Don't assume that your audience knows you. Don't ask for donations as well on every post. I think if you follow the rule of 7, you should sort of try and balance that on all your platforms. And we'll talk about it at the end of the workshop. Then don't be a self-promoter. So you have your own very strong like volunteers and donors, but if you're the only one posting and liking your posts, your own posts, for example, is a very faux pas. But if you're also only your volunteers are liking and sharing the post, it also feels a little bit like you're self-promoting. Instead, perhaps try to engage your community in other ways that are a little bit more balanced. Diversify your content. So make sure that you post on Telegram, on Facebook, on email, that you post different types of posts, and there will be one that always works for you. Sure, you can repeat it, but just make sure that you also have other posts that, you know, are different to that one. And use hashtags. Hashtags is a very good way to get people that has never heard of you to hear about you, because they will post using the hashtags themselves, click on the hashtag and then see your post and be like, oh, there's this other organization is also doing the same, or they're also working on these. And so it actually opens like a small window. Cross post, and if you can, like, you know, just associate yourself with, you know, tag other people, influencers, for example, do it. In your network, you will have some people that are fundraising very strongly, that are leading very strongly. Try to collaborate with them if you can, like someone had suggested before. If you can do like a networking event with them, or a meal or a dinner with them, and you post and you tag them, that would help. And think again, the 3 Ps, right? Is this you know, helping the population? Is this helping us? And is this you know, relevant to a cause? Is this abiding by the principles? Then for the audiovisuals, you can post pictures or video. I think I recommend posting pictures and videos because they tend to have a threefold engagement compared to just text. And just make sure that if you have a video, it's a short format video, if it serves your purpose, and make the first 10 seconds count, because most people watches for the first 10 seconds and then they just, you know, dispatch. Actually, I think it's a little longer. I think it's probably like 30 seconds, but I would say if you can get their interest in the first couple of seconds, like 10 to 30 seconds, that would be fabulous. Just deliver it. Most people will fall out after the 30-second rule because of attention spans. Show your work, don't talk about it. If you are delivering something, just, you know, deliver it and just say, oh, look at this, you know, great work that we're doing. Just maybe add ciphers and numbers, but don't just say it without the picture, for example. Or in this case, don't just post the picture without the context. So always the text and the audio visuals should be related and clear. And you should respect your social media guidelines to support the unity and create that sort of sense of familiarity within those who follow you or those who you target through advertisement. And make sure that you record or take pictures horizontally so that they can be used for the press. If you do it horizontal, it's going to be a lot harder. And let the beneficiaries speak. Don't speak for them. If you are with beneficiaries, always ask them to, you know, speak and share their opinion on what you're doing, or ask them to make their own call for donations or call for help if you can. Make sure that it's good quality if you can. I know it's not always possible. And yeah, like someone was saying before, do live feeds and engage with live feeds, because that's like an amazing way to just create familiarity, to have people just reply to your post, to have people show up and you know, just sort of feel like part of it. And do as others do in the platform. So if you are on Instagram and there's a lot of Instagram, like, you know, organizations that you're following, that you're connected with, or your followers themselves create like these different like reels, for example, or they are creating live feeds, and try and follow that suit and see how that works for you. It can be that it works, it can be that it doesn't, you know, particularly doesn't have to be one way or the other. I think it's what works for you best. And then again, think the 3 Ps: population, principles, and sorry, I forgot the other P. Population, principles, and what we're trying to do. have terrible memory for names. Sorry, guys. Right, so we go with the content ideas for humanitarian work. So the content that you can post about, or that would be interesting to see for your beneficiaries, for your donors and supporters, would be, for example, volunteer and work opportunities, light touch resources, advice for those who you are serving, in the sense of you can show that you are you're knowledgeable, that people that needs your help can go to this website, but just don't make it entirely about your beneficiaries support, because again, that will sort of distract them. Yes, Mary? No worries. I'll see you again. So this is the last one of the whole series, but the other ones are recorded and we have shared the links, so you can check them. Make sure to download them, because the links are only live for 5 more days. Although we will have another round over the next couple of weeks. We're going to start another round of the workshops, so that we can continue engaging charities that need the support. All right. See you. Right, so, sorry, Mary, before you go, archival posts. Do you want me to talk about that? Because that's precisely this page. Is 5 minutes, 2 minutes?
Okay.
Would that work for you? Okay, so archival posts are an interesting question. Archival posts can give the idea that you are not doing enough, or that you're not doing anything right now that is worthy reporting and whatnot. So yeah, that's exactly how we might feel. However, it's not bad if you manage it properly. So you can always do like a throwback Tuesday. Use these tools that internet has embedded on themselves, about your previous work. So TBT, or hashtag TBT, hashtag Throwback Thursday, is a great place for you to showcase all the fabulous work that you've done in the past. And you say, oh, Throwback Tuesday to the time when we helped in so-and-so, and this is what we achieved then. And then it starts to sort of bring slowly but surely all the work that you have done over many years. It doesn't necessarily mean that, it's probably you have a lot to go on with this. And if you have your planner, if you have your social media calendar, and you have your planner with those 2 dates that are like the rush hour on the internet, Tuesday and Thursdays, then you can make the Tuesdays one about something you're doing today, something you're doing right now, or the Throwback Thursday ones, and the Throwback Thursday ones with things that you have done in the past. Yeah, I hope this helps. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye. Right. So we have as well advocacy posts, and advocacy posts are something you have to prepare for in a way, because they take capacity, because it takes an effort to moderate, especially when it's like a challenging issue. Always when you are doing content, think about the numbers, report as much as you can report to generate that trust, and share your successes. But you can also share, for example, news articles and do commentary on there. Like if there is something relevant to what you're doing, you can share that post, and that way you will kind of connect with the broader network that is working on that, because this will show up on their feed, or maybe you can use the hashtag or tag the news agency, and then their readers or their followers will find you. You can also post about your team members. You can do shout outs to the team members, or you can, show who they are, where they come from. Again, consider OPSEC if you're going to do this. You can also do posts about behind the scenes, which is something that we have done a lot in our humanitarian work in Ukraine on the warehouses. Like, warehouses are quite a boring place to be, but with humanitarian work, there's always something that you can do in a warehouse that will engage more donations. For example, like, oh, look, we have all of these donations, amazing, thank you so much, and these are the donors, and donors love seeing these posts where they recognize the stuff they have donated themselves. So it's a great way to engage, to keep them engaged, and as well update on projects. Are there any other ways in which you could, like, any other ideas that you could have for content? All right. So we're gonna talk about the hacking the ad code for fundraising. So if you want to create a perfect call for fundraising, which shouldn't be every post as we mentioned, but if you want to create it, like write the one post that you're going to fundraise to, this is a very good way to do it. It's like a sort of like a marketing rule sort of saying. It's kind of proven, but again, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for you. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to work for you. Just try it and see if it works for you. And it's just a way. It can be that you have many other ways in which you can raise funds more effectively, but this is sort of like the golden standard or the go-to strategy. Now this is from the ad code, and I'm going to show you the video in a minute. But what we see is they have few components. So you cannot see it because it's very small, but the first component is call out question. So it's like asking the question that you're trying to answer the problem to, sorry, you ask a question that is going to say yes to, that is going to say yes to in the brain of the donor. So you can say, for example, it's unthinkable that Russia is bombing infrastructure that leaves hospitals without electricity. And I'll say, yeah, that's unthinkable. You start with that, just the yes. And then after that, you propose a solution. Many of the victims of those same bombs are rushed to emergency rooms to find they cannot be helped because of the power cuts. We are providing solar generators for Ukraine. So that's like the solution, right? Of course, now I am hooked in because in my mind, I'm thinking yes. And I'm thinking then, yes, I want to support, these solar generators. And then you can nail the call to action. Each generator costs X much, and you can help with $2 or more. Donate now here or read out here. And with that call out, I'm going to say, yes, you know what? This is part of who I am. This is part of what I do, and I'm going to donate now. And then you can have then the entrance or the, specific action that you want them to take, such as using a tiny URL or a button, a donate button. That's where you close the sale, as it were. And then once that is done, you create a post and you post it. And then when you post it, you should consider some of the following things. You should consider moderation. You have to make sure that you have enough moderation capacity to field any questions and comments you may get, especially from donors who want to donate and don't know how, or that don't have like cannot follow the instructions or struggle with the instructions. And then you can also monitor and evaluate how your post is going and how it is performing. And here I'm giving you an example of an amazing post from Andy Den on his New Year Eve that engaged with 172 people. And as you can see, it can be 74 comments. It's quite a lot to moderate. So you have to make sure that you have the capacity to do that. Now, Andy Den is a polarizing person in the humanitarian work in Ukraine, but I work very well with him, and I know other people that don't. And you wouldn't even be able to tell that from the amount of engagement that he gets in his group, UK Aid for Ukraine, which is his own network of humanitarians that supports his work. And this organization, this group does amazing. They're not a charity, they just start a Facebook group, and they collect about a container of aid every 2 weeks or so, which is amazing work, right? So yeah, you couldn't be able to tell because it's well moderated, it's well managed, and again, they do have a very engaged community. And what do we mean by engagement? So engagement means, the amount of things that people do, like the clicks they have or what they see. And it can be shares, it can be just simply looking at it, like engaged time, or it can be the amount of comments or the comments that they make. It can be page views or members of the group or people joining the group. And then it can be like visitors. Right, so once the post is there and is running and you have it all under control, you can move to promote it. And so to promote it, there are very different ways, and you can as well pay-per-clicks for Google. This is something that you can do for your website, or if you have another platform that is not Facebook or Instagram. Pay per click, it's good. It's very good if you have already narrowed your supporter personas and clarified your aim, because you can target them with Google Ads. And you can, if you're a charity, apply for a Google grant for it. They also have Google grants for workspaces, by the way, if you need a Google workspace. But if you don't have a charity status, you can still pay for it. And it's just a very good investment. If you want to do it for free in a way, you can always connect with influencers or do free mentions, for people that support your work, or great donors or organizations. But you can also build your own community, like Andy Dan has done, which will actually rally behind your cause and will fundraise for you. And you can also empower your supporters to promote you by making sure that they understand exactly what you do and what you're doing and how you're doing it. And you can use that as well on Facebook and on Instagram to target your Facebook ads. So if you have an ad, it will take you about 5 minutes to, if you have a post on Facebook on your page, it will take about 5 minutes for you to create a Facebook ad just by boosting that post. And I'm gonna explain how that works here.
In this,
can you hear?
Time to talk about the ad code. Now, this is a proven process for how to script and how to write.
Sorry, not that one.
Start with a
this one.
Got it. Well, now we can move on to that laser targeting aspect and making sure that you're putting that in front of the right people. Now, there's a couple different ways to make sure that your targeting is on point. The first of which is audience insights. This has been a tool that Facebook has had for years. It's been kind of touch and go with how valuable it was. It's decently valuable again. So if you just do a quick Google search for audience insights, you're going to be able to figure out a ton of information around what kind of people you're after and what other things they follow and demographic details and all kinds of things on that. Could make an entire training on that alone. Lookalike audiences, incredibly powerful. These have been one of my, as well as most of my friends and colleagues, top performing audiences for a very long time. What a lookalike audience is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. An audience of people that you know is really good for you. And then you tell Facebook to go out and find people that look just like them. And they're going to match all kinds of different variables with it. And often is one of our highest performing audiences. Also, you can do that psychographic targeting. Again, we're talking about interests and behaviors, organizations, affiliations, groups, pages they like, all of those other things. This is going to enable you to get right in front of that perfect person and make sure that you're not wasting your money on all the people that aren't a good fit. When you get this right, you move from irrelevant to relevant. And that's the goal. Not a lot of people talk about this. When their ads aren't necessarily performing as well as they like, it's often because the person that they're serving it to isn't relevant. The message isn't relevant. It's not something that they want. It's not something they're interested in. And you can avoid all of that by making sure you're putting your stuff in front of the right people. All right, let me shuffle back to the corner there and we'll keep moving.
All right. So as you can see, you use your donor personas to target your ads and to promote them. And that means you will find people that look like them, that have similar interests, and you can target those and see if they are also interested in what you are, the message that you're trying to deliver to them. Right, so today's workshop, we have talked about the step-by-step of creating a successful humanitarian post. So if you want to create your own Facebook ads, you can check this tutorial. It will walk you on a step-by-step. Then we're going to talk about key principles of social media and marketing with the last 15 minutes we got. And I'm going to start with the 40-20 rule, which is, a century of conversational wisdom, which says that the success of any direct response to advertisement is based on 40% on who sees your message. So getting it in front of the right audience, which again, laser targeting. Then the other 40% is the offer. So is there appetite? Is it affordable? What is my incentive to do it? Now, in the humanitarian sector, what the way that looks like is dimensionalize donations, make sure they are as a simple shopping list. Like with $40, you can feed a family, or $40 covers a family food for a month, or in the case of Help People, $97 evacuates a person from occupied territories, something like that. Then you have to remove the risks that the donor is running, making sure that the donation process is easy and simple, and that it is sort of trusted. Like if you don't have a charity, make sure that your PayPal looks legit, that is not going to be candygirl@hotmail.com, but it actually is something relevant to your cause. Maybe it's your name. Make sure that they know, in the case, for example, if you're sending money through like cryptocurrencies, right, that their money is not going to get lost in the systems, which often happen, like that their money is going to be traceable back to you or to them. And also create a sense of urgency of this needs to be done now, donate now. And then 20% depends on the creative. So you want to show your style. Just make sure that if you're quirky, that it doesn't get in the way, and that it doesn't sound tone deaf. And I'm going to show you now a video that is quite quirky. It talks about the humanitarian work. It's not from a charity, but I hope that it sort of proves the point of how being quirky can enable the point that you're trying to make, or it can actually distract. But at the end of the matter, even if it's what we're trying to do is a human, helping in a human tragedy, we still can sort of afford being ourselves. So here's that video. Ooh, let me open it on YouTube.
Hi, I'm Nick, and I'm from the future.
No, you're not.
Hold your tongue, side voice. And I'm here to tell you about the fundraising trends that dominated 2023. What?
What happened in 2023 then?
There were 16 prime ministers.
That doesn't sound right.
But it is plausible, isn't it? Okay, I'm not from the future, but I am here to tell you about the future. So here's the top fundraising trends that will dominate in 2023. Before we start, remember to like and subscribe for more videos on the charity sector. Let's begin. The cost of living crisis refers to the fall in real disposable income. It's been driven by labor shortages, energy crisis, the war in Ukraine, and lots of other factors. Now, the cost of giving crisis is a direct result of that. 55% of the public stated that the cost of living crisis is impacting their ability to give. Charities are thus facing a funding shortfall, so they will need to diversify their income. That means looking at the opportunities out there. Charities might consider crowdfunding, microfinancing, CSR, merchandising, legacy giving, or sponsorship. There are loads of options available to plug the cost of giving void. Our advice: examine each stream, consider your resources, and pick the best one for your charity. According to PayPoint, nearly 2/3 of people want flexible donations. That has only been strengthened by the cost of living crisis.
Stop.
Flexible giving frees up donors to make donations the way they want to. It benefits charities too, because flexible donations improves retention. Donors can lower or pause their donations in times of trouble. Charities can easily provide flexible giving options with the use of digital payment tech, or working with integrated apps on the market. Physical events are back, baby.
Don't call me babe.
And they bring loads of great benefits. They allow better networking and socializing. They help build trust and transparency. And they broadly improve engagement with content. Charities may not go fully hybrid, but they will most likely still include digital elements, or even live streaming a panel or keynote address. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. Gaming for good has been the talking point in the charity sector for years, but now it's finally booming with huge fundraising possibilities. Take Gaming Without Borders, for example. The event launched in 2020 and now offers a $10 million prize for the winners to donate to their favorite cause. Despite the opportunities, charities are still failing to really get involved. 2023 is the perfect time to start. Gaming for Good will really diversify your fundraising. Streamers can add donation buttons and then everyone can donate. It's that simple. The average adult will spend 6 years and 8 months on social media in their lifetime. That's pretty shocking. But it shows that every charity, regardless of size, needs to be on social. Our advice has always been consistent. Pick the right platforms and dedicate your time and your resources to those. That is particularly important in 2023. It's no longer just Insta, Facebook, and Twitter. There's Reddit, Snapchat, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, Clubhouse, and loads more. You need to pick the platforms where your audience live and not spread yourself too thin. Do your research and find out about the demographics you want to reach. Did you know, for example, that Gen Z make up 60% of TikTok's user base? 90% of Gen Z have used Snapchat. The use of Facebook declines year by year among Gen Zs. That tells you plenty of essential information about that demographic. So look at your chosen demographic and pick the right platforms for them. Then think of the unwritten rules of those platforms, such as how many posts should you do per day? What are the best times to post content? What content might be most effective on the site? Should you engage with your digital partners? Experiment and adjust your approach accordingly, depending on the results. Social media is a fast-moving world. You need to keep adapting as new information arrives. And there you have it. 5 fundraising trends for 2023.
That really hurt.
Please check out the Charity Digital website for more information and please.
Right. So in the case of these guys, I think they can afford to be a little bit more quirky. I don't know if that undermines their message for you or not. I don't know if John, if you're willing to have an opinion on this. But yeah, there you have it. So try to be quirky, but just be mindful of, if you can, like, how much of your quirkiness you can afford. Then we're going to talk about the marketing rule of 7, which means a potential customer must see a message at least 7 times before they'll be provoked to take action. And so these will depend on, how you reach them, how have you successfully reached them before, and again, on what you want to include in that, depending on your demographic and your donor personas. Do you want to paid ads for them? Do you want to have them to reach out through Messenger, and as well as, I don't know, seeing you through email, web search? I think that other platforms apply here as well. They can come across you on different platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and all those 7 touch points, even though spread across different platforms, will lead to that particular donor donating to you. I think our current combination in Help People is Reddit, Instagram, Facebook, and perhaps for some Twitter, but we also use email for our most loyal donors. Now, another thing to consider is the Pareto law, which means that 80%, which states that 80% of the output in a certain situation or process will be determined by the 20% of the input that goes in. So it means that really of everything you do, only the top 20% will bring big results. And how that looks like is like this. So on Facebook post engagement benchmarks, according to a research by Hootsuite, you have an average total post engagements versus page fans. So the amount of people on your page, fans that reach out to engage, that engage with this post, 0.11%, and the average total post engagements would be 0.18%, and so on. And what that means is that really of the rest of the post and of the rest of people you're not engaging, only these less than 1% added to the rest that you do will have results. So a lot of the times your an effective social media strategy looks like one post with 0 likes or 1 like or 2 likes. And then maybe every 10 or 15 posts is going to be one that is major and that goes viral. And that's it. Congrats on making it through so far. And, is there anything that you would like to add? For example, you, John? I hope that this wasn't too much, that I hope you believe you have it, you can do it, trust yourself, you're already doing it actually. And it's only a matter of, continuing with that amazing learning process that you are following. And yeah, thank you so much for joining this training, this workshop, and I hope that it helps your mission in Ukraine. And for all the rest of the workshops, I think they are shared in the same platform. We have partnered with Tied Together to make sure that these workshops are going to be online for free available. Many thanks to Asher, who is driving force behind Tied Together. And to all of those of you who have made this possible, like Ala and the other team members of UNCN, my colleagues are Help People. And yeah, thank you all very much for your participation. And I hope that, this was very useful. About the project proposal, we will take new project proposals in until the end of January. And so it's open until the end of January 2023. But just keep in touch, follow Tied Together, connect with us, because we will likely going to be continuing to do some of this work, as we believe this is the right way in which organizations need to be supported now. Thank you all very much, and I'll see you. Bye.